So I know my title, the top title, and is different from the abstract you guys got, but today I really want to talk about something which interests me a lot when I finished my PhD and I transitioned to postdoc and independent research profile. So it's looking into the pathway linking physical and mental health, and also to understand the role of the brain and the environment. So I'm from neuroscience background, and also from psychiatry background. So when I look at this, can I move? Okay. So in terms of issue in psychiatry, I guess you guys, I don't know whether, I think your background probably not familiar with this thing, but there are a lot of issue of physical comorbidity in psychiatry, and has been increasingly recognized a very pressing issue here. As you can tell from the lot of opinion studies or research, the physical comorbidity, like people with physical comorbidity, even though the statistics may vary across different studies, but approximately those people, they have 2 to 3-fold increased risk of chronic physical illness like heart disease, stroke, diabetes. And they often have a significantly reduced life expectancy of 10 to 25 years. And also importantly, the majority of years lost in those people with mental illness relates to poor physical health. So you might think of physical health, it's about suicide, but it's not just because suicide, but also because of a lot of physical health problems. While, as you can see, while a lot of epidemiological studies have shown evidence that people with mental illness, they have significantly increased risk of a range of different chronic illnesses, which leads to increased morbidity, disability, mortality, and then leads to increased global health and economical burden. Despite of all the epidemiological links, the biological origins or sequelae that explain those epidemiological links remain unclear. And also another important thing to point out is that epidemiological studies generally use medical records. However, there are some existing issues in the medical or disparities in healthcare for people with mental illness. For example, there's a lack of access to adequate primary care. There are historical issues with diagnostic scheduling, and also the difficulties with acknowledging and reporting medical problems for those people. So as such, if we only look at the medical records, the issue with physical health might have been over or underestimated, sorry. So, and again, I'm saying I'm from neuroscience background, and when we look at this is brain. Of course, we're focusing a lot of on the brain when we study mental illness, because according to our current knowledge, or from what we know today, and the brain is considered the origin of mental illness. However, the brain doesn't exist in isolation. The brain is also intricately interconnected with the rest of the body, via a lot of a range of biophysical axes, for example, the circulatory, nervous, and lymphatic networks. And moreover, recently in our recent study, we also discovered a multi-organ aging network, where we show that the aging of other body systems can significantly affect the brain aging. Just one example here, we show that the cardiovascular age, each 1 year increase, and in the cardiovascular age at the baseline could explain about 1 month increase in brain age at follow-up. So this gives us some clue that the brain is, although the brain controls the body, the functional status and health of the body can also, they do send signals back to the brain, and thus can affect the brain function as well. So when we study mental illness or studying the brain, we should also look into other organ systems as well. So this provides some evidence or give us some motivation to look into the illness manifestation, not just in the brain, but also in other body systems. So in another study, because kind of motivated by the previous study, in another study, we decided to evaluate this in more detail in terms of brain and body health more systematically in a range of common mental health conditions, for example, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, depression, generalized anxiety disorder, as a comparison to also include neurodegenerative conditions, the dementia. So in this study, we included more than 100,000 adults across the lifespan, using data from multiple imaging consortia from the UK, from Australia, and also from America, as you can see here. So the idea is to evaluate those brain and body phenotypes across multiple systems in those individuals. But we know that a lot of those phenotypes or markers, they vary as a function of age, has a very strong age effect. So better In order to better control those age effects, because we are more interested in the disease-related effect, we reuse the idea of normative modeling to first build a normative reference range, and so give us some like normative reference range to categorize each individual, how much they deviate from this population median in relation to against their age and sex as well. So I guess maybe you are familiar with normative modeling, or maybe not. So the idea is I just have some example, just show what's the idea of normative modeling. So basically, we first come with the large group of healthy adults across a wide age range. We look at their cortical thickness and a fit model to quantify the percentiles. As you can see here, in this example, this female, this is the mean cortical thickness, sorry. So as you can see from the curve, so the solid line in the middle is the population median, while the dashed line from the bottom to the top corresponds to the 5, 25, 75, and 95 percentile. So this gives us a distribution of the mean cortical thickness across population. Well, here comes, once the model is built, we can then quantify a new individuals about how much this person deviates from this population median. For example, here's come a first individual, which is a 30-year-old woman. We measure her mean cortical thickness, and it's equal to the median. So this person, maybe theoretically, this person doesn't deviate, is what we expect. So this person, the z-score, which is the number of standard deviation from the median, is 0. Here comes the second individual, where her mean cortical thickness resides on the 5 percentile curve. She is a 50-year-old woman. So this person, as you can see, is significantly deviated, has significantly lower cortical thickness compared to the median, and this person's z-score is minus 1.97. However, here's come a third individual, which is 80-year-old woman, while this woman's mean cortical thickness is the same as the 50-year-old. So in her case, the cortical thickness will be considered normal given her age and sex. So we use this idea and build this model for not just the brain imaging phenotypes, but for phenotypes across multiple body systems. And here just some example of the representative phenotypes across the organ systems. As you can see, this is for the brain, the total gray matter volume. So this has bigger differences between male and females, but it's a more linear trajectory as a function of age. There's a similar thing for the pulmonary function, while the mean FA, the fractional anisotropy of diffusion MRI, which is a metric to indicate white matter microstructure. This is more non-linear relationship, but there's not much difference between male and female. So we basically build this model for 200 phenotypes across imaging, blood, urine, and some physiological markers. So the next step, we're trying to categorize those in those disease population. One way to do that is just to look at or do between group comparison for all the 200 phenotypes. However, that approach will make our interpretation very difficult, and it's not so intuitive. So what we did, we came up with the principal approach to summarize those phenotypic deviation scores per organ system level. So I'm not going into the detail of the methodology, this is just a flowchart. But essentially, we come up with this idea of organ health score, which is a weighted sum of deviation scores across organ-specific phenotypes. So this then gives us one score per organ, per individual in the end. And so the idea is that, or the way we define this is such that, so the score is calibrated such that if individual has score of 0, for a certain organ system, so her organ health or their organ health be considered normal. So the more negative the score is, so the poorer the organ function. So this is the whole idea. So once we have the organ health score calculated for every individual and for every organ system, we can have some comparison, do some group comparison of looking how much different, like in depression, schizophrenia, comparison to the health individuals. So this is the results showing the mean in each group. So this is a bit busy. And each panel is an organ system, while each axis in each panel indicates the mean value, the mean organ health score in each group. So on average, we find that organ-specific health score they all appear significantly lower in individuals with those neuropsychiatric disorders we studied compared to their age and sex-matched healthy peers. More importantly, if you look at the first top three panel, or the focus on the right top panel, the overall body health score is significant, is a lot lower in people with disorders compared to healthy individuals. And the effect size for the body health score is actually much larger than what we see in the brain. So this is gray matter, white matter, and this is overall body. And you can see the effect size. And here is just another representation of the same results, but we organized the body system is stratified by disorder group. And so all the organ system, they are ordered anti-clockwise. So from the organ with the worst profile to the best. As you can see that the poor body health compared to the brain is a more pronounced manifestation of neuropsychiatric illness compared to brain changes for those disorders. And this is particularly the case for a bipolar disorder, depression, and generalized anxiety disorder. You see the brain ranked much later. And also find this, which is consistent across the 5 disorder groups, poor organ health is most evident for metabolic, hepatic, immune, and renal systems. While when we look back to the epidemiological studies, although they often talk about metabolic conditions like the diabetes, comorbidity in psychiatry, and sometimes about immune disorders, but it's not well characterized in terms of hepatic and renal health in mental illness. And next, we try to find alternative way to look into this data. One way we came up is to see whether those phenotypic division score can provide some classification value in terms of patient versus control. So in this case, we use logistic regression and to look at diagnostic and transdiagnostic classification separately. So here is a summary of the findings. What we can see here, while in dementia, we see that it's the brain phenotype that provides the most accurate classification accuracy to differentiating dementia from healthy individuals. But the body phenotypes alone can also enable differentiation of individuals with neuropsychiatric conditions from healthy individuals. And actually, the body phenotype provides better classification accuracy for other 4 conditions compared to the brain. However, if you look at the diagnostic classification, the transdiagnostic classification, which is to look at the classification between pairs of conditions, pairs of psychiatric conditions. However, in this case, it is the brain phenotype, again, for dementia has the best accuracy. The body phenotypes enables more accurate differentiation between distinct neuropsychiatric diagnosis, which is more prominent for depression and schizophrenia, but only show just over the chance level for other 3 conditions. As a quick summary for this first part, in this study, we showed that different neuropsychiatric disorders have distinct fingerprints or poor brain and body health profile. And we show that individuals diagnosed with those conditions not only characterized by deviation from normative reference ranges for brain phenotypes, although despite the neural basis or neural basis of those conditions, we think, from the brain, but also they also present considerably poor physical health across multiple body systems compared to their healthy peers. And importantly, we show that from this work, we show that poor body health is a more pronounced manifestation of neuropsychiatric illness than brain health. However, brain phenotypes enable more accurate differentiation between pairs of neuropsychiatric diagnosis. So it looks like the body phenotypes, the body health seems to be more prominent. And I hope I have confidence too that the physical health is very important in psychiatry as well. It's not just the brain. So what is the role of the brain then? Because I'm neuroscience. I think I'm a neuroscientist, and so I really want to know how the brain play a role here. If you remember from the very start, I showed that the advanced agent of some bodies, organs like cardiovascular, pulmonary, or metabolic, they have influence on the brain health later. So one hypothesis is that if we see And from the literature and from the work I just presented, we show this association between physical health and mental health. So one hypothesis is that if there's an association between physical health and mental health, so the brain might actually mediate this relationship. So to try to understand this hypothesis, I first look into the literature of how they explain the relationship between physical health and mental health. When I dig into that, there are quite few, it's not including those, but not limited to those, like putative pathway explaining the relationship between physical health and mental health. But those literature primarily focus on depression. So the first one is the converging biological pathways, such as shared genetic disposition, immune metabolic dysregulation, and pain-related alterations in normal and monoamine levels. And also there is a potential pathway explaining including the behavior and lifestyle factors such as smoking, poor nutrition, lack of exercise, and sleep disturbances. And of course, there are psychological pathways such as emotional distress and the fear of impending death due to chronic illness. So in this study, in order to test this hypothesis, so you might ask, okay, well, I draw the particular arrow from physical health to mental health, but why cannot be the other way around? So in this case, it's the way of the hypothesis being tested is also limited by the sample. I'm going to talk about that again. So in this case, because again, we use data from the UK Biobank, the issue is, or the limitation, one more limitation of the UK bank is all the physical health markers that were assessed before the mental health outcome and also the brain, before the brain health. So the hypothesis has to follow the temporal order, like chronologically. So in this case study, we constrain this hypothesis to test whether the influence from physical health to mental health is mediated by the brain. So in this case, we're not using any like a cutoff or like hard label diagnostic groups. So in this case, we're more interested in the continuum or transdiagnostic characterization of depression and anxiety symptoms in people with a broad range of in the community sample with people with or without lifetime diagnosis of mental disorders. So in this case, the baseline physical health measure were from different organ health as the same or previous study, while the mental health, depression and anxiety severity at about 4 to 14 years of follow-up. And the brain health is also green matter and white matter. So in this case, if to test the significance of the mediation effect. So if the product, I mean, how to say, if the product of the regression coefficient A multiplied B is significant under the condition of a significant total effect of C prime, then we will consider the brain is a significant mediator in this relationship. So this is what we find. So I will just only show some example of like global measures. So in this case, first, because we want to have the total effect significant, we first need to test whether the baseline, there's a prospective association between baseline organ health and the mental health outcome. So this is the case, we find that most, actually all the physical health or all the organ health, the physical health of those organ system is associated with the depression symptoms and follow-up. This relationship is particularly strong for musculoskeletal, immune, hepatic, and also metabolic health. Once this total effect is significant, we can then test the mediation effect. So this is what we find. I only show those paths that significant, actually all paths were significant. So in this case, we show that we've actually found multiple pathways through which the poor organ health may lead to poor brain health, which then in turn leads to worse depressive symptoms. So in this case, so the size of the icon of the organs, they are like modulated by the effect of total effect, by the effect size of the total effect. Whatever. And the size of the brain is modulated by the mediating effect. And what we also find, basically what we find that brain in general had a strong mediating effect on organs that had a strong direct effect on mental health outcome. So this is most exemplified by musculoskeletal and immune systems. And similarly for anxiety, except that we didn't find a prospective association between pulmonary and renal, and the follow-up anxiety score. And this is the pathways we find. But overall, it's similar with depression. So in this case, I only show the results for the total gray matter volume. We also did that for regional volume, but for the interest of time, I'm not going to present that. So now I have shown the pathways. I show there's association between physical health. Poor physical health could affect mental health, and this is affected by how your brain works. And so now the next question is, can we somehow change that, right? Because we all want to have good physical health and good mental health. So this come up with idea to test whether what other lifestyle factors or environmental factors can play a role in these pathways. So we know a lot of lifestyle factors, they can affect physical health directly. And also there are also risk factors for a range of chronic diseases. Emerging evidence also show that lifestyle factor can affect mental health. However, what remains unknown is how lifestyle factors can affect mental health, while its impact on the physical health and neurobiology. So in this analysis, we try to test this, whether there is a significant path here. So the idea is that we want to test whether the path is significant from D to A to B under the condition of significant total effect of E prime. So the lifestyle factors we analyze in the study are pretty common, like physical activity, sleep disturbances, smoking, alcohol drinking, etc. So I just present what we find. This is one of the main findings. It looks a bit busy. And so I only show those significant paths. So all non-significant paths were suppressed from this figure. And here are some summary of the findings. We show that some lifestyle factors, such as physical activity, sedentary behavior, if you watch too much TV at home, or poor diet, bad sleep, education, and socioeconomic status, they can influence mental health while influencing multiple body and brain systems. While we also find some other lifestyle factors, particularly in this example, smoking and alcohol. If you look at panel C and panel F, so they were more involved in more specific paths affecting mental health through specific organ systems. So for this particular example, I gave panel C and panel F, right? So what we find, one example is that smoking could worsen metabolic and pulmonary health, which in turn leads to reductions in brain gray matter volume and subsequent depressive symptoms. So this is just an example of interpretation of what we find. Another interesting finding is that in this study, we find there's association between a lack of social connection with higher score of depression. However, we found that this association was not significantly mediated by the physical brain pathway. So what this means may suggest that there's a direct impact of psychological factors on mental health. However, the social connection index we acquire from UKB is very limited, and the social support can be a very big psychological construct. So I believe there more study needs to be done in this field to actually test whether there is a mediating effect by physical and brain pathways in this case. Again, as a summary, so this paper is currently in press, but if you want to read the paper in detail, there's a preprint available there. So first of all, we find significant prospective associations between baseline physical health of multiple body organs and mental health outcome. In this study, we're only focusing on depression and anxiety, because this is the field that's been most focused on, has most evidence to support. And in this case, we find multiple putative pathways that is mediated by the brain, through which poor physical health of body organ systems could lead to poor mental health. And we also identify some lifestyle factors that influence mental health through their selective impact on the physiology of specific organ systems and brain structure. I hope that, or I believe that our work provides a more consolidated view of pathways explaining the interplay between brain, body, and lifestyle and their collective influence on mental health. Because a lot of existing putative pathways, they don't consider the brain, even though provide some biological converging pathways, but the brain is normally not in any of the proposed hypotheses. And we hope that the pathways we elucidate from here could potentially inform future behavior interventions to mitigate or prevent the the co-occurrence of physical and mental disorder in a more synergetic way. And again, I would like to acknowledge all the participants from all the consortia, my founding body, and all my collaborators, and also thanks everyone for your attention. I hope I'm not running out of time. And thanks. I think we can if you have any questions, please just.